Hey guys, I was, welcome to Monkey's World, first of all. I was going through the old pictures and looking up the names of the people that I did not recognize. It's harder to do when you don't have surnames on some of them. But, excuse me, I was able to identify some of the people, which is exciting to me. For example, okay, there we go. Okay. Aunt Corinne and Uncle Alphonse were Aunt Josephine's first husband, Nelson's. Well, Aunt Corinne was his sister because I found her in the right area with the same parents as him. I think Josephine Caputi lived in Milford. Not sure. The Vadinays David and Selena, spelled with an S or a C, lived in Oxford. They were born in Canada, and she was Josephine Galline's sister. Josephine Galline was Josephine Bordeaux. She married Uncle Wheeler. So these were extended family. And there is something in genealogy that I'm trying to get into, and it's called the fan club. It's family, associates, and neighbors, something like that. That you can use to find clues on your family. So it's and one of the ways to do that is these old pictures. Now, unfortunately, there aren't surnames on all of them, and I wasn't successful in all of them, but I'm going to keep trying. Got to figure out who Francis Runnels is, who Egar Baker is, or Igar. Mr. Butler. That doesn't help when it says that. Josephine Caputi? Capauti? And Marie Blanche. Well, Marie Blanche what? But she's always with the girls. Always. So she's either a best friend or she's some kind of cousin. And Josephine Torrey. And looking at Marie Blanche with my grandmother and my great aunt, I want to say she's related. She's a cousin of some sort because she looks like them. But I don't have a last name for her. And then there's Josephine Torrey, Torrey. Now, I know that they lived in the same area because at that time period, they wouldn't have been, and there were a lot of pictures of them with these people. There wouldn't have, or I shouldn't say a lot, but a few. There wouldn't have been many pictures if these people lived far away. Do you know what I mean? So I recommend under lived in, like on Ancestry, that you type in the town that the people they're pictured with lived in. And they'll give you all the surrounding area. They won't just give you that town. And that is how I found some of these, was by doing that. Because Ancestry is going to give you all the surrounding towns, and you're going to go, okay, well, that's not far. And everything else matches up. You know, You know the time period of the picture, so you know when the person approximately had to have been born to be that approximate age that they are in the photograph. So things like that can help you to narrow people down when you um, are doing that. So basically, my hints are these. One, when you're looking at the pictures, first of all, you need one of these. You need one of these. Um, this is invaluable. Now, I have pictures where my great aunt wrote on the black paper that, the pictures were on. So I kept the black paper when we put them in acid free. But even with this thing, I'm struggling. Whoops. There. Even with this thing, I'm struggling to read them. You need to something just occurred to me. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. So you need something like this to look at the backs of the pictures. And I recommend a lighted one because I think it works better than, it shows better. That's just my opinion. This one's heavy, but I wanted a good one that was going to last me, You want to write the names down, which I did. You want to list them. You want to go into Family Search or Ancestry or wherever and look them up. You want to put in the town where the people in your family, the known people in the picture, lived. And if you know the time period that the known people lived, you can figure out the age of the unknown person. Whose name is written, but you have no clue who they are. So anyway, so you can, when you are researching, you'll be able to narrow down the right age group. 3, you want to search by the town that your family members that are in the photographs with these people lived in. It will give you all the surrounding towns, but you have to remember back then, travel was, and they had automobiles in this particular, well, to some degree. They didn't have the automobiles we have, but they had autos. But they didn't have highways like we have highways. So it was a tougher journey to go too far unless you were moving there, So they didn't go as far usually. So you want to put in the town that the picture was taken in. And you probably know where, Grandma lived. So if you get a picture of Grandma and some lady that you've identified, but you don't know who she is, you should be able to look that lady up in Grandma's town and find her in the surrounding towns, if not right in Grandma's town. And you know how old Grandma was, when she was born, when she died, hopefully. So you would know approximately how old she was in that picture. And that might help you identify the correct years of, when this correct time period when the unknown lady was born. So those are things to keep in mind. Know your time period. I should start a genealogy blog and put my tips together. It would be easier than constantly forgetting to put links, which I did yesterday as well. Didn't put any links. So I think I'm going to work on that over the next few days, and I'll link it in the description in the permalinks once I have it up and running. I think I'm going to do a genealogy blog. That way I can have links, I can have my tips like these all listed out. But what just occurred to me was that I have a Conrad Brisson who sent letters home in French to my Aunt Josephine, talking about Aunt Corinne. Well, Aunt Corinne is right here. It's Nelson's sister. Oh, I got that on my phone for a minute. So, did she pay for him to go to fancy school in Canada? And also, that would mean he had to be Nelson's son, unless he was the son of one of Nelson's siblings. Maybe Nelson's brother. Wait a minute. Uncle Alphonse. It's Nelson's brother, isn't it? Anyway, I'm figuring these things out as we go. I will keep you updated. As always, I actually printed out. It did work. This is, okay, no, his brother was Rodolphe. Not Rudolph, Rodolphe. R-O-D-O-L-P-H-E. They were Roman Catholic. Durr! This is something a little bit different. This is particulars of recruit drafted under Military Service Act of 1917. He was drafted for World War I. This is very similar to the World War I census paper that they filled out in the U.S. Now is Nelson's brother. I forgot that's what I printed. At any rate, I'm sorry, the inside of my cheek is sore. Trying to think if there are any other tips I have on that. Oh, in the pictures, if you're not sure of the date, look at the clothing. And there were some clothing tips, and I gave them to you in an earlier video, and I just happened to run across them. They're back here somewhere. Okay. Okay. I can't find it now. Anyway, basically, you're trying to look for clothing that will, here we go, photo clues. Clothes, you want to, if you know, this type of outfit was popular in the Victorian era, or this was Edwardian or whatever. The decor. Is there a big old radio or big ancient television, or look at pictures in the background. You might be surprised. Wait a minute. That's a picture of so-and-so as a kid, you know? That's where this comes in. I have a picture of my grandfather, and I've mentioned this picture because it's horrifying. He's in blackface with a buddy of his. Again, given the time period, it was something they did, but something my father was not proud of. He hated the picture. Plus, he didn't much care for his father. But that's besides the point. He hated that his father did that because they weren't racist. Neither of my parents were raised that way. I wasn't raised that way, and it was horrible. But my mother and I used the picture to identify time period. And the way that we did that was with a little guy like this. Not this one, I didn't have it then. I've gotten this one since she passed away. We took it, we looked, I think I had the one with the two buttons on the side that pops up and has a light on it. I believe that's the one we used, if I'm not mistaken. They have a little button on both sides, and it's spring loaded. It springs the magnifying glass up, and it has a little light at the top. Those are cool too. Those are nice to take with you on genealogy trips, whereas this might be kind of unwieldy to do that. So you might want to think about one of those. Because we noticed in the background there was a political sign. So we used the magnifying glass to read the sign. Then we went online and did some research and found out the time period that that person was in office. And we found out the time period of the photograph. So, appliances in the background too will tell you a lot. You know, if you've got a big old wood stove or one of those ancient gas stoves, you know, it's going to help you. And like I said, the flyers, we already went through that. Also, if you have, oh, it hurts so bad, decor at home, like my picture from my great-grandmother, excuse me, if it's in pictures hanging in your great-grandmother's house, which I have pictures of that, and it may have been her mother's, then you have provenance, proof of where it came from. That's all provenance is. It's a fancy French word for proof of where something came from. So, all of those things are important, and not everybody's going to have pictures, okay? But if you have any, and ask other family members, do you have any old pictures? Vehicles are another good thing if you have pictures of people outside. Vehicles are another good way to narrow down time period. In my case, I have a picture of my dad and his two brothers. My father said it was the last time he was taller than them. They're sitting in front of a vehicle, which is probably a early 50s vehicle, maybe mid. And you have to remember that people weren't driving brand new cars, necessarily. So, this was probably a 50s car. And if you look at it, my father estimates he was about 14 or 15 in the picture, which if you take away 3 years, my Uncle David would have been 12, and you take 2 more years from that, my Uncle Richard would have been 10. So, What year would that be? Well, 1944 and add 15. So that was 54, 55, 56, 57, 59. Approximately 1959 for that picture. Approximately. So, I mean, it could have been 57, 58. No, yeah. Could have been between 57 and 60. Most likely 59. If my father's estimate of his age is correct. Which it probably was, between 40 and 50. So between 58 and 59. And the car fits. The car is probably about a 52 to 54-ish. So, and have older people help you with things like vehicles. You know, I know my father was born in 1944. So I know any picture that my father is in as a child is going to be between, most of his pictures start about the age of a year and a half, 2 years old. So between 19, maybe summer of 45 to around 59 or 60. So throughout the last half of the 40s and all of the 50s will be his pictures. So there's a time period for you. Now you know his sister is older, and she was born 7 years before. So you know her pictures are going to span the entire decade of the 1940s. So, if I had pictures of my mother, I know that my mother's pictures would span from the last half of the 1950s through the 60s. Because my mother was born in 1954 and graduated from high school in 1972. And I can't believe there aren't any pictures of her in between. There has to be. I saw one picture that her aunt said was her. Well, her aunt Mary Schmidt, who was, I guess, technically by blood not her aunt, but she's her aunt. And she showed us a picture of my mom, who was blonde, and she was standing in her kitchen next to my grandmother, who was sitting at the table. She's, "That is you, Ella." And I was like, "That's me?" I'd love to know what happened to her pictures, because I'd love to have a copy of that picture. It's probably the only one in existence. And I have one that I got, it's her school picture. Fourth grade, fifth grade, something like that. So it would have been about 64. It's written on it, but adorable. Auntie Edith is also in the picture because they did 2 grades. My mother was a little cutie. But when I showed Auntie Edith the picture, she said, "Oh my." So, anyway, that is, neither of my shoulders are great, but, so that is it, so to speak, as far as pictures of her goes. I have a zillion of my dad, and a zillion from before him. That I can date to some degree, and I recommend this, put them in folders, and I put Scotch tape on the front of, not folders, in photo albums, acid free, that's very important. And I put Scotch masking tape on the front and wrote the time periods for each book. And I put photos from those time periods to the best of my ability in each book. I have 2 from the 40s and 50s. I have 1 from the 1900s to the 1930s. And I have 1 from the 70s pretty much to present. It's actually more the 70s to the 90s, because after that, we go like this on our phones. So, but they're all digital, because after that everything becomes digital. They're all on a chip. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I don't see one. But anyway, oh, right here. This is what I was talking about. That's where our pictures and video are now, obviously. It's called a memory card. Or they're on your phone. So a lot of them just don't get printed. Matter of fact, the majority don't get printed and put in a photo album anymore. You have your photo album in your phone, or pictures and video on here. So that one, by the way, is empty at the moment. I can do March. But anyway, yeah. I have talked to you for half an hour about this, but it's so fascinating. To me anyway. So yeah, I'm going to work on that blog. I will keep you updated. As soon as it's up, I will put the link in the permalinks, but I will also put it over on Instagram and announce it on TikTok. So, thank you so much for joining me. I will have another video after I go to Walmart. God bless you, because I need oil. And I'll see you later. Bye, guys. Please subscribe to both channels. We're trying to get to 200 on this channel and 500 over on Kid Missing. So, and don't forget to check out Kid Missing's video. It's going to go up a little bit late today because I am going out. But it will be Brenda Jo Howell and Donald Baker, missing cousins. Bye, guys. God bless you.